Hello everyone, and welcome to our Cargill Confectionery Series. My name is Coco Joe, and this video covers chocolate tempering. We will talk about a few different methods of tempering chocolate and also the background on why we need to temper chocolate and what it takes to have well-tempered chocolate. Cocoa butter is the fat that is in chocolate. It's the glue that holds it all together, the continuous phase. Cocoa butter, unlike the palm kernel oil or other vegetable oils that we use in confectionery coating, is polymorphic. And that means that it has multiple crystal forms. It's much more complicated, and it really takes some coaxing to get the cocoa butter to crystallize properly. Because unfortunately, cocoa butter will spontaneously crystallize in the unstable crystal forms. And there's one specific stable crystal form that we want to get to and coax all the rest of the cocoa butter to join in and crystallize properly. I have an illustration of a cocoa butter molecule, my fun snap beads from childhood, to show you how kind of unwieldy or gangly a cocoa butter molecule can be. It has 3 fatty acids that are attached to a glycerol backbone, and so it makes it kind of a long crystal form. But all the cocoa butter crystals are pretty much the same shape, so they can potentially pack together really neatly because they're all shaped the same. As I mentioned though, they don't spontaneously pack in this nice orderly fashion. They immediately will start packing in an unorganized fashion, maybe something like this. So this is not stable. It has a lot of room for the cocoa butter to move around. And if your cocoa butter crystallizes in these unstable forms, you'll have bloom, you will not have a nice snap, you won't have a great mouthfeel as you eat it, and it won't be the pleasant eating experience or the beautiful shine and gloss that you will get when you properly temper the chocolate. So we really need to temper chocolate properly to get those great results that we want. Great snap, great gloss, great mouthfeel. Let's discuss a few methods of tempering chocolate. I have a bowl of our Peter's Brock milk chocolate that's fully melted out to about 105 degrees Fahrenheit. So all of the cocoa butter is completely melted in this chocolate. And to be able to temper it, there are many methods of tempering, probably hundreds. But all those methods take one of 2 approaches to tempering the chocolate, which I call the mush method and the seed method. Now the mush method involves cooling the chocolate. You could use a cold marble slab or a heat exchanger, cold enough to start crystallizing cocoa butter crystals. As we've discussed, we know that the stable crystals will not be the first to be created. So once we make our mush, because the chocolate does start to thicken up as it crystallizes, then we have to get rid of all the unstable crystals, and to do that, we just apply some heat, because the unstable crystals will melt first when we start warming the chocolate up. So the mush method approach is a rapid cooling of chocolate using mixing and shearing, and then a warming step to melt away those unstable crystals. Now the second approach is a different path, but it gets you to the same endpoint, well-tempered chocolate. We will take some already well-tempered chocolate, such as this block, and we use it as a seed to seed our untempered chocolate, only introducing those stable crystals. So for seed, you could use chunks like this, you could use shaved chocolate, you could even use tempered, well-tempered cocoa butter. The important thing with seed is that your seed must not be bloomed, and it must have just the stable crystals in it. So those would be the 2 approaches to temper chocolate. You can buy tempering machines to do the work for you, or you could do it manually. And that choice would depend on how much chocolate you need to be tempered and how much tempered chocolate you're using in a day. So most larger manufacturers that may need hundreds or even thousands of pounds of tempered chocolate in an hour or in a day will use an automatic or a continuous tempering machine to do that, but there are many manual methods if you only need a small amount of tempered chocolate. So this method of tempering chocolate I will call the chunk method, and it takes the seed approach. I have our untempered chocolate, and I have these chunks of what was well-tempered chocolate because I can see the beautiful crystal structure inside. So I'll probably put 4 of these large chunks into this bowl of chocolate. There's probably 3 or 4 pounds of liquid chocolate in here. And that chocolate started out at 105 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'm just going to stir until the liquid chocolate in this bowl gets down to 87 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a temperature at which the seed crystals on the chunks survive in the liquid chocolate and seed that chocolate. We probably want to get 2 or 3% of these seed crystals in the liquid chocolate. That'll be enough to coax the rest of the chocolate to crystallize in the right form. There are tempering machines that you can purchase that are designed to temper the chocolate exactly this way. There are a few that have this bowl approach, and actually the bowl is spinning to provide the agitation, but I'm doing the mixing here, which is very important. You've got to have good mixing when you're tempering chocolate. In those machines, there'll be a baffle between the solid seed chunks and your liquid chocolate. But it's essentially the same procedure as this. You will start with untempered chocolate, add your seed, and continue down to about 87 degrees Fahrenheit for milk chocolate, 1 or 2 degrees warmer for dark chocolate, 88 to 89 degrees for dark chocolate. For this quantity of chocolate, this will probably take 6 or 7 minutes. As I check the temperature, I want to be sure I'm not touching the bottom of the bowl and I'm not touching one of the chunks. I'm only touching the liquid chocolate. And the mixing is very important because you want the chocolate to be a consistent temperature all throughout, and you want to keep it moving so that it has a lot of opportunity to make contact with those seeds. I'm still only at 91 degrees, so I've got a little ways to go. It's also important that you add enough quantity of chunks so when you get to your set point, you still have chunks remaining, because it's important that they stay in contact with the chocolate all the way down to your target temperature of 87 degrees. If your chunks have melted out, then your chocolate may not be well tempered. You can see that these chunks are melting and getting smaller than the size that they were when we started. Now, with this approach to tempering, we never create any of those unstable crystals. When we started, the completely melted chocolate had no crystallized cocoa butter, and the only cocoa butter crystals that are getting introduced into it are the stable ones that are coming from our seed chocolate. So this is a very clean approach to tempering chocolate. There are no unstable crystals that we have to melt out. So we're getting close to our target temperature. We're at about 88, so we've got just 1 more degree to go. It's important that we remove the extra chunks when we get to our target temperature of 87 degrees, because you can be over-tempered. We can have too much seed in our chocolate. That makes it thick, and it makes it crystallize too fast. So it's important that we stop at the right time, which for this method is 87 degrees. So we've reached 87 degrees, 87.3, 87.4. So we'll want to remove the chunks. And since these were perfectly tempered chocolate that are now covered with more tempered chocolate, they can certainly be reused. You can either melt them down for the next time you temper chocolate, or you can use them as your chunks for tempering more chocolate. So now this bowl of chocolate is perfectly tempered. And we'll want to do 2 things. We'll want to maintain its temperature by occasionally microwaving it or adding warm chocolate or some other means of keeping it at a consistent temperature, and we'll want to keep it well mixed. So most tempering machines will have great heat control and nice agitation to keep your chocolate well mixed and maintained at the proper temperature. So if I had left my seed in this chocolate too long, and we were down to 85 or 86 degrees and we are over tempered, that would mean we probably have more than 2 or 3% crystals in our cocoa butter. So to correct this, you could just warm it up gently to melt away some of those crystals, never exceeding 90 degrees. If you get above 90 degrees with milk chocolate, you may detemper your chocolate too much and melt away too many. So just small, gentle heating, keeping below 90 degrees will adjust your chocolate. The second approach to tempering is the mush approach. And we call it mush because the chocolate is getting chilled or cooled on a cold surface and really getting thick before we take a warming step to melt away the unstable crystals. The method that I first learned how to temper chocolate was the marble slab method. And it's taking your untempered chocolate, pouring out about 3/4 of it onto a cold marble slab. Room temperature of 68 degrees is fine. And working that chocolate on the table to create crystals, most of which will be unstable. It's very important that you shear or scrape the chocolate off the table. That'll help create crystals and keep it clean and keep it well mixed. And you'll want to move that chocolate around until it gets like a mush. You'll see it really start to solidify. Temperature-wise, it'll be 77 to 79 degrees. At that point, you'll want to remove it from the table and mix it back into your warm chocolate to melt away the unstable crystals. So now that our chocolate is tempered, I have a suggestion on checking the quality of your temper. I take an offset spatula, you could use a knife as well, and you just want to take a thin layer of chocolate and rest it on your marble slab. Well-tempered chocolate should solidify in 4 to 6 minutes in a 68-degree room. So let's take a look at our spatula test. It's glossy and solidified, so it looks nice. I'm going to touch it, and it's not tacky, and I'm not causing it to dull. So I would say that this, if it isn't perfect temper, it's very good temper. If we were under-tempered, it may not be solidified, or if it was solidified, it might be tacky. And if it was not well tempered at all, it might be streaky or even gray at this point after the 5 minutes. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out more videos in our Cargill Confectionery Series. I'm Cocoa Joe. Have a sweet day.